Good evening, folks. Samson to LeBron Public Radio. I want to thank all of you again for tuning into LeBron Public Radio. Tonight we have some guests, a special guest with us here tonight, of course. But first thing, safety. Lord Jesus, we want to thank you this evening for bringing us together again. Lord, we ask you to continue to pour your blessing on us. Lord, we want to thank you for protecting us in this time and need that we have for you. Thank you for everything that you continue to do. Lord Jesus, we ask you to bless the country, Republic of Liberia. Lord, as you know, with the Liberian diaspora, we have two tables. One is back home, we put food on, and another one here in the diaspora, we put food on. And we want to thank you for the opportunity you give us. And Lord, we ask you to bless us, continue to bless us for us to do what we have to do to satisfy whatever it is you want us to do. And we ask you, my Lord, to please bless the leadership of the Republic of Liberia. Give them wisdom to do what is good for our country. And Lord, we ask you to bless the host country, the United States of America. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, folks, we're a little bit running behind here, but that's okay. That's okay. Tonight, we have with us tonight, it's a very special show. It's a very special one. We have with us Mr. Bayu, who is a friend of all of us. But it's going to be a very interesting conversation here this evening. And I think if you're tuning in, you're going to enjoy this conversation with Mr. Bayu. And Mr. NYANUE, who also happen to be a very good friend, a very close friend to Mr. In fact, they're just like brothers anyway. And he's going to be joining us here. And Mr. NYANUE can join me anytime. Of course, he will be here with us as well. But before long here, folks, let's do this. Let's bring in Mr. Bayu, who's going to give us exactly some of the things that I'm talking about here. Folks, here he is, Mr. Bayu. Mr. Bayu, good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and good evening, Mr. Toh.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming on Liberian Public Radio. First of all, for many Liberians and even people in our own sphere that are not quite familiar with who Mr. Bayu is, could you just briefly introduce yourself, and then we can start the conversation?
Well, my full name is NYANUE Bayu, and of course, I'm a Liberian. I come on this program tonight to say things about Mr. William NYANUE. So I will introduce myself by tying myself to him. He and I are very good friends. We entered the University of Liberia many years ago together in the same civil engineering class, and we graduated the same year together in the same civil engineering class. And we've known each other for a long time. You know, I've already told you that I'm an engineer by what I just said, and I do live in the United States. I've been practicing engineering for more than 3 decades, most of it right here in the U.S., longing to go back to Liberia to serve in any capacity that Liberia can benefit me. And I happen to, have this very, very close friend who is kind of ahead of me on his vision for Liberia. And so that's a little bit about me. Throughout the program, I'm sure you might have questions to ask me, and I will tell you a little more about myself as we progress.
Definitely, Mr. Bayu. In fact, we're going to have a bunch of questions here. I also have worked with you. I remember you and I served on a committee, Liberty Party related committee that was set up as professionals, engineers to work on the plan, whatever. But that's not the point here tonight. I'm just saying that I've known you for a very long time myself. Mr. Bayu, I know, and I'm just going to give it to folks. This has nothing to do with sectional issue here tonight. But I want to look at this conversation from a broad perspective. And that's why we're going to go on here and go this route. Mr. Bayu, as you correctly stated, you've been knowing Mr. NYANUE for a very long time. And whatever Mr. NYANUE has gotten himself involved in, you're always there to support him as a brother. just like you did with this gone senatorial election, which he was not successful. But what really pricked my interest in making sure that we have this conversation with you, it was the recent, just last week, the election that you was supporting Mr. Nyanu on, all of us were supporting Mr. Nyanu on, for Grand GEDEH County senatorial position. And you, our brother from the Nima background, Nima County, who is our brother, but yet still you supported Mr. Nyanu because I believe you know who Mr. Nyanu is, and you think he has a quality and whatever it is, leadership ability to lead in Grand GEDEH, be one of the leaders in Grand GEDEH County. But the question that I have, really, and I want to ask you this, of course, is quite recently, just last week, there was a program that was held by the family and friends of Mr. Nyanu, Honorable Nyanu. But you don't live in that area. You live far off, but yet still, you pay your way, transported yourself to the program. And I'm wondering, why are you still supporting Mr. The election situation is over. Why are you still supporting Mr. Nyanu? The fact that we didn't win, we got shellacked big time by Mr. Zopeno in Grand GEDEH County, and yet still you are not discouraged. You're always with us. What exactly is happening here?
Well, Mr. Toe, you said it right when you said our brother from Nimba, and brother is an operative word. Liberia is a country. It has 15 counties. It's like a vehicle. It has tires, it has wipers, it has a windshield. All of those things serve a purpose on the vehicle. If you didn't have them, you'll soon come to find out how much each element is important to the operation of that vehicle. So Grand GEDEH is Liberia. I'm a Liberian. So it should not be surprising that I'm interested in what happened in Grand GEDEH. But let me also say this. When you run for public office in Liberia on a national stage, you are advocating for Grand GEDEH, if you are from Grand GEDEH. You are advocating for Bon County if you are from Bon County. But when you make laws in Liberia, it is not for Grand GEDEH, it is not for any other county, it is for the whole Republic of Liberia. So we all should be interested in the quality of people that each county sends to our national offices. Outside the fact that Mr. Nyanu is a very close friend of mine, that gives in a nutshell tells you my interest in Grand GEDEH. It is about Liberia. Now, why am I supporting Mr. Nyanu? Look, Grand GEDEH has had a very, very good opportunity. And in fact, the opportunity still exists. This man has many, many things that he delivers to Grand GEDEH. And if he wins in Grand GEDEH, he is going to be delivering it to Liberia. He's a very, very decent human being, high moral, high quality, a visionary, a well-respected engineer in the engineering arena. He is one of the best engineers. He's probably the best engineer I know in hydraulics in Liberia. Then he leaves his place that he most qualified to go into politics. It tells you that we need a rehaul of our system. So even if Mr. Nyanu was not my close friend and he came from any other county, because of the value he brings, I will be with him. So in a nutshell, Mr. Nyanu is Liberia and we are Liberian. He's my brother because he's from Grand GEDEH County.
I see. That's wonderful thing to know a friend. Not only what you just explained here is actually took words out of my. I'm a talker, the liberal progressive. So we will be coming on here very shortly, and the rest of the group that are going to be coming along with me, I talk more than that. But what you say, yeah, just knocked me out of balance completely. To say, yeah, Mr. Nyanu is a friend, but the mere fact that he's going to come from Grand GEDEH to go and be senator in the national body that will make law that will also affect the people in Nima County. So you're pretty much saying what exactly Liberians need to hear. That when we electing these people, they are not just coming from your county. They are also there to make laws that will benefit the rest of us. So I think this is a very, very interesting concept you just put out here tonight. And this is my first time hearing that, to be honest with you. To say yes, even though we all know Mr. NYANUE is your brother, that's fine. But you're saying it's not about kingship that got you involved. It's the fact that you want quality out of Grand GEDEH, because whatever comes out of Grand GEDEH most likely will affect Nima County as well. And I think that's telling. So, Mr. Boyu, I think that's a lot. That says a lot. But anyhow, thank you for that statement. And let me try to find my own footing here. But at this time, I think I'm not even going to wait any longer. I will go and bring my savior, because I'm completely out of. You completely knocked me out. Let me bring in Mr. NYANUE. Mr. NYANUE, hopefully you'll be able to hear me and help me out here. As usual, I'm the talkative person. But what Mr. Boyu have said here is what we all supposed to gravitate towards. Because if we're going to be electing a representative from Nima County, Bon County, any other county in Liberia, they're all going to meet in the national house, where laws that will benefit each of the counties will be passed. Not specific law written by a specific individual that will benefit that county. But even if that person puts something that will benefit the county, most likely will also benefit the rest of the county as well. So he's saying that he wants to see a quality out of this thing here, and that really knocked me out. But now that you're here, what do you make of that, Mr. NYANUE?
Samson, first of all, it's nice to be back on your show. I think Mr. Boyu kind of summarized what I believe my whole life, and what I believe, the thing that holds Liberia's redemption. And that is, I really believe that, and we've seen it in other places, what holds Liberia's redemption is an association, is a group of people who are held together by common values and common aspiration. Like you said, Mr. Boyu is from Nima, right? He said he and I entered the university together. We're in the same class. We graduated together. We were not roommates when we were at the university, but we became very good friends. And the thing that kept our friendship going over these 40 years is the fact that we believe in the same thing. We have the same values. Mr. Boyu's, what I will say, what consumes him is the fact that he likes to see young people. He wants to mentor young people, especially in the field of engineering, to become professional engineers. He wants to invest in young people. That's my passion. He and I worked together for about, I think, 3 or 4 years in Liberia trying to mentor young people. We had a group called MOSA, Movement for Sustainable, Development? Alternative, yes. We invested a lot of resources in our group. So I'm saying, and what he said is what I've been saying to all of my friends, whether they're from Bon or Lofa or any other county. We must come together on the basis of our common values. What it is that we believe in, what is our vision for Liberia? And it's only when we come together on that basis that we can eventually build an institution. And that's why when people ask me about joining political parties in Liberia, that's what I tell them. Because I believe a political party is a political association that brings people together because those people share the same value. They share the same aspiration. And that takes time to do. And that's why somebody like me, I'm not rushing to join in a political party. But Mr. Boyu is correct. I think this is where Liberia needs to go. We need to collaborate sincerely across all the boundaries that we have in Liberia that divide us.
So, Mr. Boyu, let me come back to you here. And like I said, the statement you made here is profound, to be honest with you. And I really appreciate you making that here tonight as well. But let me ask you this. You're not a stranger to Liberia. You are very tuned into Liberian politics and everything else. What is coming out of Liberia, or what you're seeing out of Liberia right now? What is your perspective on that?
Well, Liberia is a society, is a country, and the society and social structure is heavily aligned with politics. But you see, for a country to be complete, economics is extremely important, because government cannot generate its own capital. Government consumes, but government makes the way for businesses and people's aspirations to flourish. That element of Liberia is almost non-existent in Liberia, because politics is a life in a world unto itself, and it does not realize that there are other things it's there for. So what I see come from out of Liberia. Now, if you go to Liberia and talk, I like talking to ordinary folks. When I used to go to Liberia after the war, I go and hang with the likes of Mr. NYANUE, the likes of people who have similar educational background, who went to the same schools. And those are kind of false identity, false alignment. And we think we have like minds simply because we graduated from school. And Mr. NYANUE said, value system in Liberia is not centered around the things that really should benefit us. It's kind of superficial. It is not grounded on solid value and solid principle. And the political system should be grounded on the backs of the people who should make the system run. But unfortunately, political values are not aligned with the things that really true to us. We don't put our money where our mouth is in Liberia. You see a lot of young people on the streets. A lot of young people have aspiration for education. If you talk to them, they will tell you. Most of them want scholarship. They will tell you. But is there anybody investing into those things? I'm sure there are many people, but generally, it is not aligned in that particular way. And the economics. These young people need money to buy their shoes, books, and some to go to school. Their family needs money to put bread on the table to make sure that they can truly support their children's aspiration. So unemployment is extremely high. Liberian people are now heavily into businesses that can really sustain them. But most of the businesses that actually control Liberian economics are people who are not indigenous Liberians. Okay. So when you look at Liberia and you see the disconnected between politics, the social structure of our people, their aspiration, and economics, then you look at an individual, Mr. NYANUE, who espoused those things. We say we need to do more of those things. You see, I was making a note here about when I talk about values. Liberia has a culture, a custom of doing things in a particular way, like everywhere in the world. Okay. But those things that we do repeatedly and don't give us the results that we want, why do we continue to do them? So when someone like me goes into Liberia and want to see change, sometimes it looks to me like the ideas I have in my mind is utopia. It don't work, But then I ask myself, the thing that you say you want to do has never worked for the last 100 years. Why continue to do it? Why not try something different? You see, Mr. NYANUE brings something different. He brings something different that has proved around the world that can show results. But the question now is, who is in Liberia that is trying to change this paradigm from what it is now to something different that is meaningful? So when I see things come from Liberia, that's the things I see. I see non-alignment of values and misplaced. I mean, we have the value system. We are hard workers. We are very, very well educated, but we have not aligned our values properly.
Mr. NYANUE, let me bring you in on this here because we're talking about you trying to get into the Liberian politics, specifically from Grand GEDEH. And Mr. Boy, you is saying that the way we try to align our political value to that of culture is not quite in place. And you're not a stranger to Mr. Boy. I know you guys have had many conversations on this kinds of topic before. And if you know all of these, why will you continue to, or even try to? I will consider a waste of time. You're going to disagree with me, I know that, but I will use that words anyway. So why then waste your time on us, Liberians and Granadians, and think that you're going to do things differently when people, Granadians, Liberians, as saying to themselves they like what they're doing. That's good. Nothing, no change going to happen, but they continue to do the same thing over and over, and you're quite aware of that. Do you think you as an individual will be successful in trying to have the paradigm shift that Mr. Boye has spoke about?
I think there are a lot of people in Liberia like Mr. Boye, in Liberia and here in the diaspora, who recognize that what we've been doing in Liberia for more than 100 years doesn't work, and yet still we continue to do the same thing. And there are a lot of people who have that realization. The challenge is, how do you bring those people together so that you create a critical mass of such people? I mean, there's no Liberian that you will talk to at a very deep level who will not say Liberia needs to be changed. But I think where Liberia is today, a lot of people have become cynical, and they just say, you know what, this is Liberia. You hear that say all the time. When something irrational happens, they say, this too is Liberia. So, when I was running my campaign, the last campaign, the senatorial race, I had few presentations here in the US. And when I do the presentation, at every event, somebody will come and say, what can you alone do? Which I think is a legitimate question. What can you alone do? And I remind them all the time that a lot of things that have happened in the world begin with one person. And in my case, I don't even think I'm alone. I think there are a lot of people like Mr. Boye and others that because of the circumstances that you don't hear, who think the way that I think that Liberia needs to be changed. And something, what Mr. Boye said is so true. I was just thinking about it last night, and then today you kind of mentioned it. Right now, the CPP in Liberia is on the verge of disintegration, right? The latest news today that came out is that Mr. Cummings walked out of the meeting. I started writing an article yesterday, and I just I say I'm going to let it go. Because political collaboration is something that we know historically doesn't work in Liberia. It doesn't work. Go back to 1985. It did not work. Go back to right after the war with Unity Party and Lab and all those people, Councillor Sherman, Cletus Watterson, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. That whole thing was a fiasco. It did not work. And so the question I wanted to have raised in that article was, why have we stopped to ask why these collaborations don't work? And I humbly submit to our people one of the reasons they don't work is because of the nature of political parties in Liberia. That nature is they are formed around individuals whose only goal is to be president of Liberia. So when you bring 2-3 people together whose only goal is not necessarily to redeem Liberia, but their only goal is to be president of Liberia, how do you get those 2-3 people to say, okay, I will wait, let this person go? It's not possible. It's not possible that, I don't know Mr. Cummings that well. In fact, I don't know him, at all. I've seen him. I don't think it's possible that Mr. Cummings will set aside his ambition to be president of Liberia for Boyka to go. And I don't think it's possible for Boyka to set his ambition aside for Cummings to go. So they are getting to a place now where the rubber is meeting the road and they're going to part company. And that's why what Mr. Boy said before in the comment that I made, that is why I truly believe. Bring a group of people together who have common values. If Mr. Cummings and Mr. Boyka have common values and common aspirations, there should be one party, not two. The fact that they are two, and again, that's the other thing, because even when you look at these political parties, what are their values? What are their values? What are their aspirations? Other than just winning an election, what are their values? That you will say, oh yeah, they have common values. That's what is missing in Liberia. And until Liberia's political struggle gets to a place where you can get Liberians of common values, and common vision, combining forces or in one organization, what is happening with the CPP now will continue to happen. CDC, take CDC. CDC, they will say it's a collaboration. Really? Yeah, it's a collaboration of smaller parties with CDC that knew they were going nowhere, but want to ride on CDC's popularity so that they get something. If you had parties like we do now with Unity Party and ANC that feel very strong in their own position, coming together and say the form of collaboration, it's not going to work. You see in the CPP right now, the role that ALP is playing. I mean, we got to be honest. ALP know they can't win presidential election. They know that. Liberty Party, it's the same thing. I'm sure Liberty Party know they can't win any election right now. So they are not in a position to bargain. But ANC is, and Unity Party is. So when you put the two groups together, there's no way that either one of them will set their ambition aside for the other person to go. So what Mr. Boyu said and what we all saying, and I think this is the wake-up call that Liberians need to have. I lost the last election. And since the election, almost daily, I get text messages from Liberia wanting to know what I will do in 2023. And the question I put to them is, people say, Mr. NYANUE, you need to run again, you need to run again. The question I put to them is, why did we not win the last election? And that's something we Liberians don't do. After an event, we assume we know the reason why they think one way or the other. Oh, because I didn't have money. Oh, because of this. We don't take the time to objectively analyze the situation to say, here's where I went wrong. Here's where I did well. And if I want to do again, this is what I need to. We don't do that exercise. So that's what I'm saying about all this collaboration, what's coming out of Liberia. Serious political people need to stop and ask the question, why do political collaboration don't work in Liberia? Why don't they work? Do it as a disinterested person so that just and if you're really interested in redeeming Liberia, that you will find something that works. And for me, that is my effort, right? That is my effort. In Grand GEDEH, what I wanted to do and what I still want to do is the fact that I know what's happening in Grand GEDEH is not working. It's not working. Grand GEDEH is way behind the rest of the country. And there's a reason why. I articulated that in my platform. And I just need to convince enough people to say, yes, this is why Grand GEDEH is not working, and this is what we need to make Grand GEDEH work. And I think we need to do the same in Liberia. Liberia is not working. Liberia is not working. There are people that get there where you and I are right now, no fish to fry. We talk about how people are corrupt and how people are nepotistic. But give us the opportunity tomorrow, and we'll do exactly the same thing. And it's every time. Not an aberration, not an outlier, but it's consistently every time. And there's a reason. And those of us who really want to see Liberia turn a page, we need to find that reason and to articulate it so that it resonates with enough people so that we can do something that works in Liberia. Last thing, let me say something. I know I'm talking too much. When I decided I was going to run, I have some American friends. One of them had worked in Liberia. He was a Peace Corps volunteer. So I sent him an email and I told him that I was running. And then he said, I know you'll do well, but you see, he said, but, something to the effect that I'm sorry that you are leaving engineering and you're going to run for a political position. I think Liberia needs more engineers. That was what he said. and I wrote him back. And I said, I think you're right. But you see, if the political configuration in Liberia doesn't work well, engineers suffer. We don't get, the space to do engineering. And I just give you an example. I went to Liberia in 2012 when my project started. And my friend then, Nathan Tule, was the president of the Liberian Society of Engineers. He was trying to get the Society of Engineers, Liberian Society of Engineers, to license engineers in Liberia. I mean, a lot of our people traveled during the war, and they went places like Ghana and other places where you could not practice engineering because you were not licensed. So he was working hard to get engineers in Liberia to be licensed. He asked me to help him write, the proposal to the legislature, and we did. And then they asked him to go to the legislature to defend, what he was asking. So he called me. He said, "Come and go with me." So I went with him, and I helped him in the committee, the chair of the committee or whoever was there that day, to say how important it is to have an engineering license. I even took my U.S. license. I had it in my wallet, and I took it. I said, "Here's my license. I have to renew it every 2 years." And then he said, "Okay, we'll see what we can do." And so I told my American friend, I said, as of today, as far as I know, that proposal to the legislature is collecting dust in there. They're not paying attention to it. Why? I guess maybe they don't realize the value of licensing engineer. So just imagine if an engineer was in the House, in the Senate, few of them, who know the value of licensing engineers. That bill would have been passed a long time ago. So there are things that we are doing in Liberia that don't work. We need to stop and ask why.
And
Yeah, go ahead. I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy both of you here. Go ahead, but you
you are talking to two people who have a passion for quite a bit of stuff in Liberia here. So
that's right. And you yourself just got back from Liberia quite recently, anyway. And you, whenever you get there, you engage. I also was there one time, and I spoke with people from public works. The few times that you were there trying to help them, and there was a lot of positive thing that comes out of there. How you were trying to find out from the bottom up what exactly public works supposed to do, and that information is out there. So go ahead. Your passion is equal to that of Mr. Now. Go ahead.
The thing that will make Liberia work, in my opinion, fundamentally, they are just very little things. Very, very little things. Because we got everything we need to succeed. When Mr. NYANUE was talking, he mentioned the word collaboration. Whenever you be a part of a Liberian organization or any kind of Liberian effort where it requires more than one person to do, watch the people involved to see how well they collaborate. We know a lot. We are very experienced on a lot of things. But one of the last frontier on Liberian development is collaboration. If you take two Liberian professionals, and I like to give the example, take two master painters. Each of them can paint a flagpole independently, perfectly. You tell them, "I want you both to paint this flagpole. I don't want one person, but both of you to paint it." They will argue from day one. You go come back 2 months later, they still argue on how pole should be painted and will never be painted. Because we do not have that practical respect for each other in a way. We all want to show how much we know, how superior our thinking is. And for that reason, we don't take the time to think that somebody else could just be as smart as I am. They could know as much as I am, I do. And there's 10 different ways, but we have to choose one. How do we choose that one? Liberian people have not mastered that art. You see? So when Mr. NYANUE goes into Grand GEDEH, he gets a platform. He did not go to Grand GEDEH telling the people or what they must do. He go to Grand GEDEH and asking the people, he said, "This is what I think Grand GEDEH needs. What do you think about it?" He goes from one village to another, from Bison to Chen, So to you know,
Total.
yeah, all of those small towns they're going to them. Now they're not used to it. If you go to Grand Gita right now, you ask them of the candidates, the people that ran to be senator, what was the best qualified on any level? What's the most educated? What's the most visionary? Mr. NYANUE scored 100% on every single question. Why y'all didn't vote for them? Okay, it is because first of all, the man is bringing something that is different from what they are used to. Now, Mr. NYANUE lost the election, but that campaign effort was a success and is still a success because, and I'm going to talk a little bit of thing in scientific and engineering term here. There's something called a learning curve. A learning curve, when you start mastering something, the amount of effort you put in the beginning, they don't start showing result quickly. If you see the graph of a learning curve, it's a very, very flat line and keep going flat. 1 year, 2 years, it's still flat and now picking up. But when you're ready to pick up, it shoot up like a rocket. You see? So you have to build a foundation. The foundation that Mr. NYANUE has put in Grand Gita, and Grand Gita people are listening. And not only Grand Gita people, Liberia people are listening. That thing is going to shoot up. If you let it die, you're doing it to yourself. Okay? Everybody know that the people in Grand Gita are important people. Our people are not people you can marginalize. They are not foolish people. They know what they want. It might just be different from what you think they want. If you think it's better, is what you have better, ask them. What do you really want? Okay, I have something here to propose. Then you start from where they are and you move together where you want to go. But in the interim, you people may not even end up what you think. You will end up somewhere in between because what they have and what you have will converge to the point because we don't have all the answers. They have some of it and we have some of it. It will converge and be in the middle. But first, we have to master the art of collaboration. And that's what the campaign was about. Many things, but one of the most important things that how can I unite with the Grand Gita people for all to move Grand Gita together? It is collaboration, even with the professional people. We have not mastered it.
Mr. NYANUE, let me read this thing here. I'm not going to read it. I'll just tell you what it in the background of it. I'll just tell you, I'll just read it one sentence this young man wrote. So very early this morning, at 3-something my time, which most likely 5 o'clock a.m. your time, I got up and I decided to go on the social media because that's what we do. Before you come on here, you have to go through everything to know what is happening and what have you. So I went to Boston District website. I went to Boston District page. And two of my young brothers, I'm not going to call their name, but they're both from Town. One of them is a mechanical engineer here in the United States who have a very smart young man. And another one, he's back home, he's a journalist. So he wrote a paper. And in that paper, the way he wrote the paper, the words and the things that he said, if you read it, you would think say somebody have won the election. So the young man here in the United States tried to critique. Anyhow, it went on for more than 10-15 minutes. And I was just reading it, but I was anxious to get involved. But then I thought to myself, I'm too old to get involved. I'll just sit back and enjoy reading. But this is the interesting thing here. This young man from the United States, who is a mechanical engineer, continued to press this other young man in Liberia to say, if you're going to do this, you have to do it right. You're a good writer, but your writing must be able to explain to the people, to the reader, exactly what you're trying to convey. And this young man got irritated, and this is what he said. You see, I'm just going to read this part. He said, you see, one of the problems I have with most of you Grangians in the diaspora, you see criticism as an achievement. You see where he's going with this. You see criticism, those of you that criticize us, you see that as an achievement. are those you have achieved something by criticizing us. In fact, on the other one, which I'm not going to read, he was very, very insulting to this young man. To say because you think you're in the diaspora, you got the monopoly over ideas, you know. So, Mr. Yano, I mean, this is life situation, true, real thing that's happening with us, Liberian diaspora. How do we connect? Because both of you are saying something here that is very important. But we have to have a partners, I believe. We have to have a partners who will give us their ears, not necessarily trying to command them, but give us the opportunity to put forward whatever we have. And they can reject it, which they did in your case. And nobody is bringing war in Grand GEDEH because they rejected you. But we have to have people who will not just dismiss us as those diaspora that are no longer connected. So with this kinds of stuff, Mr. Yano, and these two brothers, they're from the same, in fact, they're where you call back home, you call it from the same house, you know. In other words, they're from the same quarter. Okay, they know each other well. Okay, and so, but for him to come out and make that kinds of statement in public, I was a little bit taken aback. But how do we do these things so that our brothers and sisters in Liberia do not see us as a threat? Because if you're going to consider my criticism as an achievement over you, that means you see me as a threat. Because if I'm going to, because I want to achieve. So if you think criticism is an achievement to me, then most likely you think I'm going to criticize you so that I will be able to achieve a lot. So how do we try to get our brothers and sisters to understand this is not the case?
Samson, that's a big question. And I think Mr. Boyu hinted a response to that question. He said one of the challenges that we Liberians have is that whenever we engage each other, our goal seems to be to prove that you know better than the other person, you know, that I'm more sophisticated than you. And, you know, and I watch some of that exchange online, and sometimes you get a feeling that those of us in the diaspora are baiting more by that buck than maybe the people back home. The fact that we are in the diaspora, we tend to talk in a way to make people back home feel that, oh, he thinks he knows more than me, right? And in Liberia, I can remember when I was there, I mean, you know, every now and then you hear somebody say, but you got master? Myself, I got master too. You know, or I got master degree. So on the one level, I would say we in the diaspora need to be careful. Not every error you see or you hear, you should correct. You know, I think it was one of, I think it's the guy who wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People. Was that Ure? Mr. Boy, was that Ure?
That's Carnegie.
Carnegie. He said, Dear Carnegie, yes. He said, the most valuable thing that every human being has is his dignity. Then he said, don't take somebody's dignity away from them because it doesn't mean anything to you. It has no value to you. But he said to that person, it's very valuable. So don't take it away. So that's why when sometimes when they make a mistake, you don't correct them, right? Because sometimes in the process of doing that, you shame them, you know, and you take some dignity away from them. So that is the thing that we in the diaspora need to guard against. I mean, I'm an old engineer. I've been private engineer for a long time. And there are times when younger engineers make error in the company of other engineers. I don't try to correct them. I mean, if I think that something that is really important that they need to know, maybe when everybody goes, I will go to their office or call them to my office and say, you know, I think what you were saying, I don't think was quite right. You know, I think this is the way to go. You do it in private. Because the thing we need, something is that For you to have an impact on someone, you have to build a relationship with them. It doesn't matter how much you know. If you don't have a relationship with me, and that was sometimes people call me and say, oh, Mr. Yano, I have a problem with maybe my spouse and I having this issue. I want you to talk to my spouse. How can I talk to your spouse? She doesn't know me. I don't know her. I can't influence her. Right? So that's one temptation we in the diaspora need to avoid. On the home front, I think the disadvantage that a lot of the young people have, they haven't had the advantage of being mentored. They don't have an older person, whatever field they are in, an older person before them who has a lot of experience that they can look up to and who can bring them up. When I graduated from the University of Liberia, I went to work for Liberia Water and Sewer Corporation. My manager, the man who was manager for my department, the engineering department, was a plumber. He never went to college, but that man had practiced that profession so long that a lot of things that I would calculate, he would tell me the result before I even got the result. He said, Yano, go tell me what sub pipe we need to go over there. Then I'll go and do Bernoulli's equation, energy loss here and there. And then you will tell me, we need 2-inch pipe. And then you do the calculation and he was right, But it takes time to get to that point, and eventually I learned you don't have to calculate, just assume the velocity 2 feet per second multiplied by the area of the pipe and you get the flow. But when I came out of school, of course I knew, Q equal to V, I knew the equation, but how do you now transition to applying it in real life? It takes mentoring. A lot of young people back home don't have the mentor. It doesn't matter what profession they are in. I know they're making some effort now to have training. Even journalists, who are the older journalists that are training you, that are saying, here are the rules of the game. The younger engineers, who are the experienced engineers that are training them, the lawyers, and you can take out the profession. So sometimes when you engage them, and if you don't do it right, it's like you're trying to put them down. And in that environment, you don't do any good, because all you do is just bigger and you just argue, right? So I think we need to find a way so that what we have, we can offer, and the people who need it can receive it. If we don't find a way to do it, we become antagonistic towards each other. In the end, really it's Liberia that will lose. Liberia will lose, because then you don't bend the young people that are supposed to get the knowledge you have will never get it, because they see that you're trying to put them down.
Yeah, Mr. Nyaro, thank you very much. I think you and I have had a conversation on many occasions, even when you were back home, and I just couldn't understand why, Mr. Boyu, I just couldn't understand why these young engineers, or even Liberian engineers that work with public work, would sit there and let these things happen in terms of the roadway construction or the roadway design and stuff like that. Because I have been sent a lot. They sent me a lot of a design that was done by engineer from Ghana, and if you see that, I mean, the curves. There's no way some of the curves they have on these road that they design. There's no truck turning value in it at all. If you put a truck in there, that truck gonna go back and forth, back and forth. They don't see that if a truck is turning, the bike wheel gonna have a larger space if the person they don't do that. So and I'm wondering to myself, why would they do that? Even in public work, they're a typical section of roadway. How are you gonna have a road? And then the bed of the road, which is the base, then the base will be in curve underneath the pavement. How can you build a base that have a curve? And these are things the public work itself puts out for construction people to look at. They have A1 type A16 curve, which is not the one you have a type A2 curve where you have a lip of gutter and you have a flow line. They just have a type A16, which you have down and you put pave against, which is okay. But they're not something that you have to carry out throughout the entire project, especially in Liberia, where you have rainy season. And if you have that space with the curb and the asphalt, water gonna seep through. But when I talk to Mr. Yano and bring these things up, what he would say, our brothers and sisters that are here, look at the condition they're working in, first of all. And so once again, he's saying, it's okay, but you have to be careful how you engage these people. And for a very long time, I come on my show, oh, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, even though I'm right. But then when you look at the situation, and you wonder, okay, these people are there, it's hot, it's raining, so you tend to sympathize with their position. But Mr. Boyu, as an engineer, when you see these kinds of stuff, and you say, well, sooner or later they're gonna come on board. At what point these brothers and sisters will come along and try to look at Liberia? We still don't have any kinds of code, building code. People build high rises with no parking lot. People build business centers, no genuine parking lot. They build roads with no shoulder, and sometimes they have no side slope. And as a result, when the taxi come, they can't park on the side because they're one side of the wheel going to drop off, and they can't come back on the road. So they've rather park in the middle, almost in the middle of the road. And these are people. It's common stuff like this. But as Mr. Yano is saying, if we're going to criticize, we have to first of all take into consideration their position, and that we be very careful how we do that. Mr. Yanu, Mr. Yanu, Mr. Boyu, how do we address this thing here that Mr. Yano is talking about?
Mr. Yano pointed to interpersonal relationship as a developmental tool, if I may say it that way. But what you are pointing to right now also has to do with elements of infrastructure development. The problem you just mentioned, it seems technical, but actually what we are talking about is political. You see, if you allow technical people to establish technical institutions and put the checks and balances in are supposed to work or work together in medicine, in any discipline, you will have something that works. But in Liberia, politics dictates everything. So those Liberian engineers you see there, I'm not any smarter than they are. In fact, many of them will be many times smarter than me. The difference between they and me, or they and us, is some of our opportunity that they do not have. You see? So what I think we need here is to figure a way to get politics from out of professional discipline. Once you get the politics out, the rest now is left to how we want the discipline, to go on. Mr. Yano mentioned about licensing engineers. If you do not license engineers in Liberia, forget it. You ain't going nowhere. Because think about it. I graduated from college. Some of us go and get advanced degrees, okay? And then I will just give an example of, say, a building, because most Liberians understand buildings. You want a 3-bedroom house. You come to me, I'm not an architect, but they come to civil engineers and think we can do anything. So I was just talking that you come and say, I want you to do a 3-bedroom house. And I tell you to design this thing here, I will charge you $5,000 or $10,000 to design it. Then you go to a technician who knows their job, but they don't know the difference between a technician and an engineer. You go to a drafting technician, you say, I want you to do me a 3-bedroom house. Oh, this I can do it for $200. $5,000 and $200, who you will select? Of course, they're going to take the $200 job, because my fee seems very, very unreasonable. But what they don't know is, when I design as an engineer, I will check the hydraulics. Where is water coming from? and where is it going. Before I place the septic tank there, I'll figure what is the percolation in the soil, what the water table is. I will figure all that thing by calculation, the soil quality, the material, the foundation. I will do all of those things. Once you put your building down, you won't have to think again, okay? Because I've done all the calculation beforehand. But you go to the person who charged $200. First of all, they tell you that house is going to cost $10,000. You might end up paying $50,000 for it because they don't know all of the things that needs to go into this thing. But as an engineer, I would do all of the calculation. I know my time was money. So I have just been kicked out of the Liberian market because I'm competing with the wrong people. So you need to license professional people so that you can take out of the system those people who are practicing something that they do not know or do not understand. In our profession, safety is the number one thing we design for. Safety. You cannot be an engineer, you go put a building down, it collapses and kills people. You cannot be a highway engineer, a bridge design engineer, you put a bridge down, the first truck that comes, it collapses. So safety is the number one thing we design for, the plan for. The next thing is the economics. There's a lot of resources of the nation that goes into this infrastructure. So we cannot go and start wasting money. So there's a lot of calculation that go beforehand before you even stand there. And one example I'll give our folks here who are not technical people to understand, and you have to listen to this very carefully. We who are in engineering, we do planning, we do design, and we do construction. That's the stages to go through when you just come to a pure technical. You can't skip one of them. As a designer, if I make mistake in my calculation, another engineer will review it and they will say, Mr. Boy, I think this thing here, look at it again. If I found out that there's an error, I will take my eraser and erase it. The eraser is probably less than $1. I'll erase it. And my time is not worth as much. But if you don't do your planning, your design properly, or you don't do it at all, you go into the field, you will make the mistake, it will be in the field. Once you make mistake on the ground, that means that your foundation we just put up, we have to break it and start all over. So the error that I would have done for $2 or $5 in the office is going to cost you $10,000 to redo your foundation all over. You see? So, Mr. Toll, the short answer to your question is what I gave before. We need to put professional people together, take politics out of the system, put into a place where Mr. NYANUE just one thing here, respect each other, build relationship, keep the person's dignity intact, do not beshame them, and then we'll be able to build Liberia. We could talk about this thing here in endless way because there's a way in which politics work within infrastructure development. And we who are trained in this era understand all of these things. There is politics, there is economics, there is technical, there is social, there's other things. We are trained to manage and balance all of this stuff. So it is a complicated thing to discuss here, but they need to leave us alone and give us the cover to practice our profession.
Samson, let me just
Mr. NYANUE, just hold your thought on it because I want you to combine it with the next illustration that I'm going to be giving. But before that, folks, I'm in the process of Mr. NYANUE is an engineer, but most of the time when he comes here, we don't talk engineering. Mr. Boye is also an engineer, and I'm in the process of trying to have Mr. Boye from time to time to join me. And as you know, I've always talked engineering here, but most of the thing that he's saying here is, you know that. So, but Mr. NYANUE, let me the illustration I wanted. I think last year or sometime last year, or early this year, in Monrovia, and there was a wall that collapsed over a residential area and killed people. And when I looked at it, not just did the wall flip over, but the foundation itself was nothing. And not only that, they have, if you look at the picture of it, the foundation, the erosion on the foundation was just ridiculous. And for them to sit there and let that happen without even trying to mitigate some of the failure of that foundation was just ridiculous. But go ahead, make your point, and then we're gonna say if we're gonna wrap it up here, because I'd like to invite most of you and Mr. Aboyu again. I think this type of conversation is very interesting. But before you do that, let me just read something here. There's a gentleman, George Toto, I believe he's also in the Liberian community, very popular in the Liberian community. He wrote here, he said, can we ask ourselves why diaspora Liberian cannot win election in Liberia? The answer to this question, he said, will give us a clue on how to engage home-based Liberia, and this is exactly what we're talking. So I just want us to pivot from engineering to that of and close on the politics aspect of it, which is the most, as far as I'm concerned, to something that we want to continue to have discussion on. How do you address that? And you can say, come up with anything. If you want to put the engineering stuff on there, it's up to you as well.
What I would say, something is, I said it last time I was on your show. Wait for my book. The book I'm trying to write, something. The last chapter in the book is called Reflection. And that last chapter is devoted to my experience from my unsuccessful senatorial experience. And in there, I think that chapter, maybe the chapter before, I tried to address that very question. How do you win election in Liberia? And this show is not long enough for me to, share my thoughts on it. And I mean, it's just my thoughts, right? I mean, I don't have how you call it? I'm not a master at any of these things. It's just from my own experience and what I think. So maybe another show we can have a conversation on that. But that's a very relevant question. That is a very relevant question. And it's not just diaspora. It's just the straight out question, how do you win election in Liberia? That question is the one we really need to find credible answer to. What I wanted to say was, after Mr. Boy was done, one of the things, and we're going to end on a political note, one of the things that I'm really looking forward to, I'd like for Mrs. Sirleaf, former President Sirleaf, to write a book about her experience as president of Liberia, because I think it would be very useful. What were some of the challenges that she faced? What were her expectations when she went in? What did she think she did right, and what did she think she did wrong? So that people coming after her can benefit from that wisdom. One of the areas that I think she didn't do too well is engineering. The public works. At the end of the war, all the institutions in Liberia were destroyed. And you needed to rebuild them. See, and when she came in, first she brought in an engineer. For whatever reason, he was taken out. And then from that point on, she brought in non-engineers to build public works. You have an engineering institution that was completely broken down. And you bring these people who know nothing about engineering. They don't even understand the language of engineering. And they are the ones that you entrust with the responsibility of rebuilding an engineering institution. I thought that was a big mistake. Now, can the Minister of Public Works be a non-engineer? Certainly. Certainly. But not to rebuild. See, if you have the institution built and it's functioning, then the head can be a non-engineer, because that's a political position. And he has a good deputy for technical services, it will work. But when you are trying to rebuild something, put somebody in charge who knows how that thing is supposed to work. And that's why I think public works is having some difficulties, because all of the people who are supposed to mentor these young engineers are not there. They're not there. So a young guy comes from Romania or he comes from LU or Polytechnic and he becomes a director or he becomes this and he becomes that. There's nobody there to mentor them. The institutional memory is gone. They retire all the people that I know, Charles Carpenter, all these guys that were there long before the war. They retire all of them, right? So I think that's something I really would like to see sometime in the future that Mr. Sirleaf will do and give us, help us understand the challenges that we have in Liberia. As far as the diaspora winning election, like I said, I think maybe we should have another show to talk about it because I think it's very important. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we're going to be wrapping it up here very shortly. Let me see if anybody wants to even give us a call because we only have like 5 or so minutes left. Let me put the number up there and see if anybody want to give us a call. 916. And I really, excuse me 1 minute. Okay. Anybody want to participate in the conversation? Just give us a call, and then we can take you on. I'm not too sure why it's not on yet, but anyhow, Mr. Boyu, before we wrap this thing up here, I know we asked you to come on here to tell us your support for Mr. NYANUE and why, and I think you have done that here tonight to explain to us. The next question is, do you care to move to Grand GEDEH contest so we ourselves can have a nice Grand GEDEH civil engineer like you?
In fact, I gave Grand GEDEH a gift when Mr. NYANUE was running. I said, Mr. NYANUE, when you win, I want to be an engineer developing highways in Grand GEDEH because I know you have the agenda to develop the system and you need somebody who you can trust, who will not take the money and run. Mr. To, anytime. In fact, I want to sit there and we eat or go to meet together, roast it together and eat it. We go around the place, impact the people in the way they're supposed to go. And every engineering expertise I have is right there. Liberia is Liberia.
In fact, you guys hear me? Okay. I think the system is acting up right now. Yeah. All right. Jesus. Okay. What is happening? All right. My system, folks, is not working right now. So okay.
Even though it's freezing,
okay. Mr. NYANUE, they both
we can hear
out
you.
here. Okay. Hopefully, you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. So I think the system is acting up right now. So let's just go ahead, and if anybody wants to call, that's fine. If not, Mr. NYANUE, what will be your parting statement here, and then we can call it quick for the night.
I just want to say thank you to Mr. Boyu and people like him. I think Mr. Boyu represents a group of people that, you will say that serve as the wind beneath my wing when I was doing my campaign. These were people that were in the background and with whom I was sharing ideas and brainstorming, and they were looking for resources. And I think that, in fact, in Liberia, I had a whole group of fellow engineers who have formed themselves into a support group, and that met with me regularly and, raised some money to support me. And so I just want to say thank you to Mr. Boyu and to all of my colleagues in the field. Because, when you asked Mr. Boyu whether, he cared to move to Grand GEDEH, and I remember when we went to Plo, when I sent my guys to Plo and they did that bridge, and I sent a newsletter out, with pictures of the bridge. Mr. Boyu and I had a long conversation about, bridges, intermediate structures, and stuff like that that could provide relief to our people, even before you really put in the concrete bridges and the pipe covers and stuff like that. that maybe there's probably an intermediate step that could bring relief to our people. So I just want to say thank you to him. I know the vision is ongoing, whether it's me or through somebody else, the vision is ongoing. I mean, Samson, what we need in Liberia is an example, right? And when I talk to Mr. Boyu, that's what I always say. I was praying that Grand GEDEH would be such a place where a lot of the things that we talk about, that people that will be able to do some of them, where people can come and see and say, yeah, you know what, they think can really work. Because something, why is it in Liberia that we still telling people when you come into my house, when you reach to that plum tree, you go to your left, when to the purple tree, then you go. Why would we have simple street addresses? Why? Is that such a complicated thing? So if we are able in one region of the country or in one county or in one town to actually do these things so that people can come and see and they say, you know what, this is really possible. It doesn't require a lot of money. It doesn't require a lot of technical know-how. I mean, those are the conversations I'm having with my colleagues, and Mr. Boyu is a strong believer of that. You know, he came to Liberia one time and he was telling me the proposal he made to people in Ghana, you know, what he was prepared to do pro bono, no cost. He was prepared to do it for the city of Ghana. You know, so for me, I've gotten to a place where all this talk, I've gotten tired of all this talk. What is wrong in Liberia and this and that? I want to be involved in with something that goes from talking to doing, so that there can be an example. And I'm hopeful that your show will do a lot of that. What is important that all of you guys who have this platform need to do is, how do you get Liberia to turn the corner? Right? We've talked a whole lot about what is wrong in Liberia. Now let's spend some time on how do we get it right. So I think you need, you know, I would suggest you bring people on your show who have ideas. First, why what we are doing is not working and what we need to do to make it work. I think it's that conversation that we need to be engaged in now. On the solution side, we spend a lot of time in the problem quadrant. Let's move now in the solution quadrant. So thank you for having me back again tonight on your show.
Thank you. And this is not going to be the last one because we enjoy having you anyhow. Mr. Boyu, what would be your parting statement here? But Mr. George Toto, if you have the opportunity, the number is out there. So if you call, I will still take your call before we close if you have the time to do that. But go ahead, Mr. Boyu, what would be your parting statement on here tonight?
Well, I would like to say thanks a lot for having me on. I've heard of your program. I've never had the opportunity to come on, and I see the value in it, and I would love to come back again to discuss issues about Liberia.
I'd love to have you back.
And I would like to encourage Grand GEDEH to see Mr. NYANUE as a resource that they can benefit from. The election he lost is not a lost cause. He has planted a seed, and that seed will germinate. And you have to be there to make sure to do the things that we do to germinate. He is going to go to Grand GEDEH. He is going to be there with the people. He is going to establish relationship with them. The diaspora needs to understand that our people need us, not to go and tell them what to do, but to partner with them. And that's the message Mr. NYANUE has given. And that's the message I will give to anybody. And this platform is one of the places that we can give that message across, so our people know that we care about them. Liberia is for Liberians. Liberia depends on foreign economic partners, the EU and places to develop. And if I come from Nimba and go to Grand GEDEH, I say I want to help, then you look at me like a foreigner. When you bring all the foreign people in your place, we are one people and we'll build Liberia together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. NYANUE. Thank you very much. Again, folks, Samson to Liberia Public Radio. My guests this evening, Mr. NYANUE and Mr. NYANUE, who have agreed to give us some wisdom again tonight. And we will continue to bring these people on to give us their own feelings and what is on their mind about Liberia. So I want to say thanks to both of you, and we'll say good night to all of you. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night.
So again, folks, Samson Toll, Liberian Public Radio. Hopefully, and I'm not too sure. There's the incident that is happening in Liberia with uh, Honorable Cummings walking out of the party conversation, leadership conversation. We will discuss it, but I'm hoping that Mr. So will take the lead on that, and I think that's exactly what he's doing now. Most likely, going through and having conversation with people to find out, to ascertain exactly what is happening. And once that is done, we will come back here, be it today or tomorrow, whatever time Mr. So is ready, we will come back on here. But until then, this show has come to an end. Conversation with Samson Todd on a Friday evening has come to an end. But before we leave, as usual, let me just entertain you a little bit so that you would know that we're here for business, serious business.
Jimmy, around the water side. I love the fish, we get them every day. Jimmy, around the water.
Again, folks, Samson Todd, I will say thank you very much for tuning in to Liberian Public Radio again this evening. We will ask you to please stay safe. The vaccine is there. If you haven't taken your shot, please do so. Because by many of us taking a shot, we will help to move the disease in the background and move whatever community that we live in the front. Because many of us, if you're not taking a shot and you get sick, you're gonna spread. You're gonna spread it. So by you taking a shot, it protects you. Perhaps not 100%, but it protects you. So it's better that we do that because this thing is not finished yet. And I'm not a scientist. I'm speculating. I'm allowed to speculate. If you don't take the shot, and the virus have you to be like an incubator, whatever it is that is in your body, it now turns. And I'm going to speculate more. It now turns into a virus that the medicine can't do nothing to them. Then yellow bamboo water now, in you, moving around. Then we're ready to get from you and go to somebody else because no medicine can do anything to it now. You see what happened? So we have to, on a very serious note, we have to vaccinate. We have to take these shots. Let's protect each other because it's very important to the economy. We sit here, and those of all that from Liberia or other places in the Liberian diaspora, whatever diaspora will you call yourself, your main purpose here in the United States, I could be wrong, but I would say, is to make money and do something back in Liberia or help your brothers and sisters back home. When you hear people are depending on you, Allah, my people, today Friday. If you were to go from Western Union to Western Union, if you were to go from MoneyGram to MoneyGram and see the amount of Liberian lining up to send money home, you will not believe it. You will not believe it. Because our brothers and sisters back home depends on us. But we're not going to move or do anything if we get sick. If you're going in a gathering, even if you have had a shot, cover your face, put the mask on. Don't be complacent in the thing. Don't be, I got to, This is a very, very big deal. It's a very big deal. Mr. George Toto, thank you very much. Mr. City, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Mr. Anthony Gay as well. We said thank you all for joining. It's been a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. Friday afternoon, where is now 8:30 in the east, 5:30 here in the west. And I'm actually in consultation with Mr. So as well. And I'm also not negotiate, but talking with Mr. Nyamboyu to join us here to discuss engineering. Because it's very important. We can't have these foreigners to come in. I keep saying this, and I can't say it enough. The foreigner that comes to Liberia, what are they coming in as a surveyor, designer, construction? They're there to make money. You can't deny that. And when they make the money, the fact that they're just like you here. When you make your money, you build houses back home. When you make your money, you send money back home to family members. It's the same thing. They are not investing in the, well, here we invest in the American economy. But over there, when they get paid, they take the money back home. Some of them will tell their family, I'm going for 4 or 5 months. When that time finished, they're going back to Ghana. They're going back to Nigeria. They're going back to whatever they come from. But if we invest into our own, it's not like we're trying to discriminate or whatever. No. But we must invest in the Liberian engineers, in the Liberian construction. We must invest in them so that the future, the young people that you invest in today, you can send them to colleges, as Mr. Boy was saying, Mr. NYANUE was saying, you can send them to whatever college you want to send them. But when these people come back with degree, they need mentor. And you can't just retire people and say, oh, your time when you must go. Bring those people back, let them teach the young people how these things are done. And as Mr. Boy correctly stated, those of us that are in the engineering business, you do your planning, you do your design, you do your construction. And in the process, if you make a mistake and it's not cut very early and you put it out as an end product in construction, it's going to be costly. Costly. And I've seen it. When I go out to do inspection, yeah, the contractor, they must say will laugh and think, but I have the blueprint in my hand. And when I get to a certain area, when there's supposed to be a dig out, and they say this place here, because of the soupiness of the ground, the geotech already told us how bad that area, all that dirt got to come out and put a new one in there. When we get there, and they say we want you to dig 3 feet, and I measure, and you already get all your junk, and you come in and put something 2.5, you take it out and make that 3 feet, because that's what this thing goes by. If I don't do that, I'm not trying to be mean, but if I don't do that, and the finished product, there's a reason why the geotech said go 3 feet. They didn't just get up and say go 3 feet. So it's the same thing. If you're going to be involved in these kinds of field, you don't have a chip on your shoulder. When I'm done with my design, we got what they call peer review. And when you look, sometimes you look at your design that you've done, got reds all over, red lines. So what? I'm not going to start all over, but there are a few things that I missed. In fact, when I ready to do, I did a road design over there in Sophie Road, over there in at Monrovia, and I was going to do it today. I just wanted to talk to these 2 gentlemen today. And the road is already constructed. But you will not believe that they didn't even look at my drawing. They build the road based on their intuition, based on what they believe that I put on that paper. And I will show you. They lifted the road so high that the surrounding area, when it rained, the water go into people's yards from the street. My issue was I have a grade that I set. I know this place, like Monreal, raining, no issue, it's no big small thing. So I have pipes. They didn't even put the pipes through. They didn't even put anything kind of drainage system, nothing. All my drainage system that I have done for them, for nothing, free, nothing. As you come from the Sophie roll, Sophie ice cream roll, whatever they call it, and you come on how do you call it, Tubman Boulevard, I have a round curve as they come out, so that the wheel of the truck when it's turning, and I will show you guys that they have what it called truck turning. As the wheel, when you watch some of the truck when it's turning, if you have a bad design, you will find that the back wheel of the truck will go on the sidewalk. And where it's going on that sidewalk was supposed to be part of the street. So I did all of that. You know, they didn't do that. They didn't put a radius that I specified. They didn't put that on there. But I'll show you guys that. Why? Why? I would suspect these people were cutting corners. They were cutting corners. And if you as an inspector, you should have the drawing with you. Because I put a lot of time in the free of charge. They didn't pay me 5 cents. If I was doing it to get paid, that job would have been at least $10,000 to $15,000 or even more. But 5 cents, I didn't ask for free. I did it free for them. And maybe because they didn't pay me, and therefore they didn't think they're worth looking at. I will show you guys. First of all, I will show you because I have people going out there to do the videotape of existing before. And then I will show you the videotape of after. I will also show you my drawing, my design. I did it with I did it just like you would do it here. Good profile, follow the Ashto design profile, roadway profile. I did all of that. The only thing that I didn't do, because the surveyor refused to give me the point of the pipe pipe they have on there. So I figured within myself that water still comes from this side anyway. So the pipes they have on there, the question I asked was, has there been any flood issue in that area? They said no. Water has never tapped over the bridge before. So I figure whatever they're collecting in that area is enough, is good enough. Because I have no survey to do any kinds of hydraulics calculation, what have you. But they didn't even follow that either. It's very sad. So I'm talking with Mr. Boyu to see if he can help me to do this thing here from time to time, because oh my goodness, Mr. George Toto, sorry, my brother, sorry if you're still here, sorry. It's 5332048. Did I put 2049? Oh, yeah. My glasses are bad now. I can't see anymore. Yeah, well, right. But anyway, folks, when I come on, and if Mr. Boyu agreed to join me, we'll be doing a lot of things, not necessarily criticizing. And I will hope my young engineer who is now studying in Ethiopia, CPU, will join us some from time, because he's a very, very intelligent engineer, very smart young man. When I went home, he was just good. He was just excellent young man, good engineer. He'll be one of the best. Now he's doing his master's in Ethiopia. In fact, he's doing. I think he's doing. He's in railroad now. So, but it's not that far. It's not that far. So he will still have the concept of roadway design. So, but he's doing his master, and hopefully he will join us, yes, from time to time as well. He's a very good, and they have a lot of young engineers in Liberia. So we hope to actually have these kinds of conversation where the young people will be able to understand the issue of design, the criteria, the rules that are set. They are not just on paper for nothing. They're there for a reason. Anyhow, once again I want to thank Mr. Boyu and also Mr. NYANUE, who were able to join us tonight. Well, we'll bring them back on from time to time, so we'll have some discussion. I want to thank all of you for this wonderful show tonight, for your contribution, for your viewing. We say thank you, Mr. George Toto, one of the big shots in the community. I'm sorry, I apologize that I gave a wrong number. So I apologize. Mr. Toto is a big shot in our community, highly respected young man. And the reason why he respected, because he respects people as well. Simple as that. Anyhow, I will say good night to all of you. And thank you very much for joining us. It's been a wonderful evening. Thank you. And I'll say good night. Oh, you got the